Welcome to the Queen's Lair, a lifestyle podcast. Get inspired by our latest tips and information about small business, entrepreneurship, natural hair, travel, food, and even relationships. Stay tuned for another great episode. I am your host, Renee Patrice. Welcome back, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning into my podcast once again. This is day 2. We are here, July 2nd. For those of you that may not know, I have set out to do a challenge of recording a new episode every day for the month of July. So that means that's going to be 31 episodes by the time all of this gets said and done. And I want to see what this does, kind of like a social experiment, to see what this does with my podcast, to see if my podcast reaches more people, because that's always the goal for my podcast, to reach even more people and to be more widely heard all over the world. And I think I'm actually going to do a rundown in this podcast, because I haven't done one in a long time, to let people know where my podcast is being heard right now. I think it fascinates me when a new country pops up on my listenership tally that I can see from behind the scenes in the back office of the podcast. But I will do that at some point during this episode. But I wanted to come on here real quick. And one thing I wanted to say is a huge thank you to Mrs. Tabitha Brown. If you guys are not familiar with Tabitha Brown, or as we like to call her on social media, Auntie Tab, I truly implore you to go follow her on social media. She is a wife. She is a mother. She is a vegan. She is a natural sister. She is a Christian woman, and her family is absolutely delightful. Her husband has just the most hilarious quips, and he's a funny guy, and he's a smart guy, and her kids are just beautiful. I tell you, it has been a joy to watch her career just literally just explode on the scene. I have been following Tabitha Brown, I would say maybe a few months before she actually started to gain this, traction within Hollywood. She has been an actress for many years, and I actually didn't realize that I knew who she was. But her look was different. Her hair was straight. She just had a different look about her, and found out later on that was the same actress that I had seen in many movies and shows and things before. I didn't realize it was the same person. And she said that she was always trying to downplay who she was, her personality, her accent. She's a Southern girl. She's from the Carolinas, she has a big accent, a heavy Southern drawl, but it's so infectious when you listen to her. She has just really taken the influencer world by storm. If you guys listen to the Calm app, there's an app called Calm that has people with really great, speaking voices. And she got a deal with that. She just recently did a deal with McCormick Spices to have her own. I think it's called Sunshine Spice. I hope I'm getting that correct. But she's just really, truly been a light. And, if you guys don't know, in the past 24 hours or so, Wendy Williams, I'm sure everybody knows who Wendy Williams is, made some very disparaging comments about Tabitha and her family, especially her husband and her marriage. And, I'm not going to go into the details of what Wendy said. You can Google it and you can find it on your own. I want to focus on the Tabitha Brown side. And that is a side of grace and class that we have we don't see very often, you know. And I know when I think about it for myself, you know, in the last decade or so, I have definitely I've had to find grace and class and taking the high road in many situations, personally and professionally. And it has not been easy. I have not always been happy about having to take the high road. Sometimes, you know, you feel like a person deserves a little bit of a drag, you know, but I have really refrained from that because I feel like God is moving my business, my life, everything in these amazing directions. And trust me when I tell you, there's so much more that I have to say, and so much more that is coming down the road, just even for me personally and professionally. And when I do, you know, kind of get the green light or feel like, okay, now is the time to talk about it, I will definitely do that. But I was so bothered by the words, you know, from Wendy. It just, man, it really irritated me, and it really bothered me because I said, this is part of the problem that we're dealing with amongst each other, just human beings in general, but especially I have to say within the Black community, is that when we find an opportunity to tear somebody down, we just go for it. You know, sometimes when you're on social media, you look in comments and people come into other people's comments and just, you know, tear them down and go off or whatever. But I will tell you, Miss Tabitha Brown really gave us a lesson. She gave us a lesson. You know, it's kind of going around, and she gave us a master class in grace because the way that she could have responded, and it totally, to be very honest, would have been very much justified. She decided to take it in a direction of grace, take it in a direction of love, and truly coming from her heart. Because we know there's that saying that says, hurt people hurt people. And, you know, when I was young, I didn't really understand what that meant. But when you really think about it, it's like, yeah, when people are hurting, a lot of times they tend to lash out. They tend to, you know, just be and stick in a miserable place, you know, and often bringing a lot of people around them down, you know. And I'll tell you, it's very easy to be negative. It's easy to find the bad in things. It's very easy. But it is so amazing when you go out of your way to find the good. It's so amazing when you go out of your way to just not respond in a way that people think that you ought to respond. So, like I said, concentrating on the Tabitha side, she responded to Wendy with the most classy, it was like a classy drag, really. It was a good Holy Ghost checking, if you want to say, for the saints out there. Like, it really, oh man, she really could have came with the heat. And she did, but she did it in such a loving way. She did it in such a way that, you know, basically, and I'm paraphrasing, but basically, like, I pray for you. Even though you are plotting on my downfall, you know, I still pray for you. And that is not an easy thing to do. It's not. Because I have said that, you know, I have to admit that, you know, it's not easy to respond in love when somebody does you wrong. It's not. It took me a long time to find grace for certain situations and people, but I decided that if God gave me grace, when I know good and well I daggone did not deserve it, then I can do it for them. And it has never failed me. It may not feel good at first because you want to get your dig in just like they got their dig in at you, but I've gone the positive route and it has never failed me. But I will also admit I enjoy a good old sanctified check-in, okay? And Wendy got it, okay? Because Miss Tabitha Brown said, no, I'm going to love you even when you did not show me love. And I implore you to go find this video. You can Google it. It's all over YouTube. It's all over Instagram. And I'm going to tell you, follow Miss Tabitha Brown. It will bless your entire life. She's very open. She's very honest. She's very just, very transparent about her life and things that they've been through and all of that. But let me tell you something. That video is one of those videos that it's like, 5-minute video, but it's one of those videos that you actually would save and go back and look at to remind you, of the goodness of God, because that's really what this is about. There's so much goodness and there's so much positivity going on in her life. Why would she respond in perpetuate the foolishness? You know what I mean? So I'm so glad she responded the way that she did, and the internet has just blown up behind it, and her support is even more, which I am so thrilled about, because she's totally deserving of it. And especially, I remember following her before any of this, before anybody knew who she was. And I was like, wow, this lady has stayed the same. She has not changed. She has just extended her heart even more now that she has the physical means, the monetary means to do so. And that's really what you want, You don't want money to change you. You don't want fame to change you. If anything, it's made her even better, because now she has a bigger platform to do more good, which she was doing with even the little that she had just even 2 years ago, So thank you so much, Tabitha Brown, if you ever listen to this podcast. Thank you so much for extending the grace and the class that you did, because it definitely, it was a great reminder. Sometimes you need that refill every now and then to be reminded that there's so many other bigger things going on. There's so many bigger things and paths and roads, that God has for you to go down that you don't even know, things to come that you don't even know. And I truly believe that when you are coming from a place of just being just old-fashioned mean, and just ornery and, that kind of thing, it blocks blessings, and I'm not trying to have none of my blessings blocked. So thank you, Miss Tabitha Brown, for giving us a lesson in grace and class. Well, this is day 2. I have several more days. I got a few more weeks to go, because I'm doing 31 days straight of at least one episode. And if I really feel, if it kicks up in my spirit, I might even do more than one episode on some days. But we'll see how it goes. I'm not promising that, but I am going to try my best to do at least one episode every day this July. Okay, you guys, that's all I've got. If you want to contact me, you know how to get in touch with me at Onyx Queen Media on all socials. If you want to email me, feel free, info@onyxqueenmedia.com. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye.